Ed Story calls this fly a Midge Nymph. I am tying it on a number 16 straight shanked hook. He says to tie it down to a 24. I'm using copper wire to put some weight on it and build a little bit of a tapered body. I'm going to use my wire scissors to cut that off. I'm using some gray thread. I will just wind that around at just before the bend of the hook to catch that wire in. I don't really like that hanging out there behind. See if I can bend that up in there and catch that in. So this fly is supposed to be tied very sparse, and the tail and the throat are optional. I am going to put them on, and I'm using just a couple. Well, I'll use 3 fibers from this partridge feather for the tail, and then probably 4 for the throat. So take those 3 fibers, lay them on top of my hook shank, grab the tips, and then wind up over them. Try to keep them on top of the shank. It is a short little tail, if you do put a tail on it at all. And I just cut my thread on my hook tip. I'll just wrap that back in. What am I cutting it on? Oh, I'm cutting it on the point of that wire. Okay. Try to get my thread back on here. I'll have to cut those tags off. Go ahead and cut the butt ends of those tail fibers out. That's something to watch for. I have sharp wire pieces there to cut my thread. For the body, I'm going to be using some squirrel mixed in with some, this is called Adams. It's a synthetic. I think the synthetic helps hold the natural fibers together better, but it's supposed to be kind of a buggy body, so the longer squirrel hair does that, and a very sparse body also. And just grab that strand of dubbing and pull it between my thumb and my finger and twist it onto the thread. And I probably have way more here than I need, but I can pull it off. And it's not wanting to hang onto the thread well. Okay. Once I get it started, then I can retwist it on the thread. Try to keep it tight. So it does get a little bit of the buggy look from the squirrel. And hopefully a little bit of a taper. The taper is helped by the wire that I use to weight this nymph. Keep twisting the dubbing to keep it tight. That's probably all I really want there. I can just kind of pull the rest of that off, maybe. Keep the eye clean. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just trim off this little bit of dubbing that's in the way. Try not to cut my thread. And then I'm going to put a throat on it, although the throat is optional. So 4 more fibers off of a partridge feather. Just pinch those underneath of the hook shank, wrap up over the top, catch them in. I think that's good. Pull back up on those butt ends, tie up over the top of them. And again, very sparse in the tail and beard. Clip off the butt ends of those fibers. And then I can put a whip finish on that. Clip out my thread. I try not to cut when I take the thread out. I just put my scissors against the thread and push. And then I am going to put a little bit of head cement on that knot. I do use a diluted goop. It is going to turn it dark while it's still wet. And then I'm going to run a hackle feather through the eye of the hook just to make sure that it's clean. A Midge Nymph from Ed Story's Missouri Trout Flies, How to Tie and Fish Them.